So, I want to photograph all of these super small things, and it's just impossible to do on my iPhone. What am I doing wrong? Well, you just can't get those shots crisply in focus without a mobile macro lens. The technical specs of the phone just won't allow it. Yes, I know all about Apple's new macro mode in the iPhone 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max, but not everyone has a top-of-the-line new iPhone. If you're in the same camp as me and your new iPhone just hasn't been delivered yet, you'll need to add something to your phone camera to get those close-ups. While there are loads of macro lenses for smartphones on the market, only a few provide a super high-quality result. One of those is the Sandmarc 10x macro lens. For around $100, Sandmarc provides you with everything necessary to start snapping shots of super small objects, which is much more than can be said for their competition. Today we're going to discuss what the Sandmarc macro lens does, what the Sandmarc macro lens comes with and why that matters, and some pros and cons of Sandmarc's macro lens. Once we're done with all that, I'll provide you with my unbridled thoughts about the most complete smartphone macro lens purchase that you can make, and provide you with alternative macro lenses worth considering if you don't love Sandmarc's macro lens. So let's get down to business. To defeat the Huns, and also talk about this lens. To show you what the Sandmarc macro lens does, I've come up with 5 scenarios. Each scenario is an appropriate use of a mobile macro lens. Today we're going to shoot my wife's engagement ring, some bugs, a logo, some books, and my eye. I've captured everything today in the Beastcam Pro camera app so that we can note how the focus changes when adding the macro lens. If you also want manual control over your iPhone's camera for mobile photography and filmmaking, then check out the review of the Beastcam app linked in the top right-hand corner of this video. It's somewhere up here. I'm not very good at remembering which way is left and which way is right when things are flipped, and I'm trying to read from the teleprompter, and I'm trying to think of intelligent things to say, so it's just up there somewhere. The working distance of my iPhone 11 Pro wide lens without the macro lens attached is about 5 inches, whereas with the lens on, it becomes around 1 inch. I've tried to keep the phone as close to the same place as possible for all of the photos. What you should notice now that we've run through those photos is that the working distance with the lens on is significantly closer, and that makes the shots that you can capture totally different. The 10 times optical zoom of the Sandmarc macro lens also has a fairly wide focal length, which means you'll capture a lot width-wise, and your subject will stand out from the blurred background. So, while the big selling point for these macro lenses is that optical zoom, you're also purchasing the ability to get significantly closer to your subject than you would without the lens. Before we move on, I'll show you exactly what I mean by running through the macro scenarios just one more time. Now, what does your purchase of the Sandmarc lens come with? Your initial purchase of a Sandmarc lens comes with much more than their biggest competition, Moment. Your purchase of this lens will include the macro lens, an iPhone case of your choice, a clip-on mount, a lens pouch, a front and rear lens cap, and a lens hood. While Sandmarc markets their macro as an iPhone only lens, with their clip-on mount you can use the 10x macro lens with any phone. My biggest quip with Sandmarc is with their phone cases, especially the one that they send you for free with your purchase. That free one is called the standard case, and you can buy one that's an additional $40 that's called the Pro Case. I did test in a past video and found that the Pro Case, that additional $40 purchase, made mounting Sandmarc lenses 40% faster when compared to the standard case that comes with your purchase. I have had people get a little persnickety with me though, saying that I'm really nitpicking. This is just a personal opinion sort of thing. I am all about efficiency, and that's why I like shooting on my phone, and when the threading isn't efficient, that just bothers me. But all that being said, when your lens arrives from Sandmarc, you are ready to shoot. The Moment 10x macro lens, the biggest competition for Sandmarc's macro lens, is more expensive and requires the additional purchase of a case to mount the lens. Personally, I found little difference in the image quality when I tested the Sandmarc and Moment macro lenses head to head. The difference that there is doesn't equate to spending an additional $50 for a lens and a way to mount it, in my opinion. If you're considering a smartphone macro lens of any kind though, it's worth sticking around for this next section about pros and cons of mobile macro lenses. There are certain things that one must know about these lenses before purchasing one. The pros of the Sandmarc macro lens should be fairly obvious at this point. 10 times optical zoom and a more optimal working distance for those close-up shots. But what about the cons? As far as I'm concerned, there are three big ones. A limited working distance, completely relearning lighting because lighting with macro is a little bit weird, and the sheer cost of the lens. Let's dive in and talk about each of those cons a little more in depth. We'll start with that limited working distance. What is the range of that working distance? So, you could probably tell from the screenshots that I captured that the range of the working distance with this lens is very tight. I'm actually going to try and use a ruler or tape measure to get an exact measurement for you. Hopefully that worked. But there's nothing that you can do to improve the working distance of this lens, so you'll need to be cognizant of it when shooting. This means you should capture things at a straight-on angle as opposed from at like a side angle for the best results. Additional pro tip, the less depth that your subject has, the better. Next, we're going to talk about relearning lighting. To be honest, I've flip-flopped on the subject of light and macro lenses a number of times at this point. Initially, I said that you need lots of light for mobile macro, but then I decided that lots of light means lots of shadows and lots of harsh shadows, and I've decided that that's worse than not having as much light as you might want. So where does that leave us now? I'm thinking that to best answer this question, I definitively need to answer another one. That is, what does the lighting hood do? So, I'm going to pop this lighting hood on, take some photos with it on, take some photos with it off, and hopefully be able to provide some sort of definitive answer as to what it does. And that definitive answer will be typed on the screen right now. There we go. And the last con that we're going to talk about is cost. Almost $100 is a fairly substantial purchase for a lot of people, and you aren't likely to use the macro lens that often. So, are there cheaper mobile macro lenses out there? Of course. We just tested a macro lens from Apexel that is super impressive at a $40 price point, and we compare it head to head with the Sandmarc macro lens that this video is about at 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Now, while I will see that $100 is a fairly substantial chunk of change, I do think that the Sandmarc 10x macro lens is a worthwhile investment for a professional photographer interested in adding some macro capability to their tool belt, a small business owner looking to capture some product shots for their business, or a mobile filmmaker who dreams of more texture and details in their films. Honestly, if you're considering a macro lens for your smartphone, then there's really no reason not to pull the trigger on the Sandmarc macro lens. A mobile macro lens is an invaluable tool that is well worth the cost. I think Sandmarc's offering is the ideal blend of performance and cost effectiveness, and would still recommend it if Sandmarc charged an additional $30. So comment below and let me know when your Sandmarc macro lens is going to arrive. And that's all we got for you. If you feel like you got value from this video, go ahead and hit the like button down there. It definitely helps photos of phones out a lot because it forces YouTube to show our videos to other people. Because of the algorithm. Comment your thoughts, questions, and concerns about the Sandmarc macro lens below. I'd love to chat about it and help you make your best buying decision. If you do decide to purchase the lens, then consider doing so through my link, which you can find right down there, as the nominal compensation that I receive from your purchase helps me make more videos just like this one. And as always, subscribe to the channel and turn on that notification bell, because we're coming out with twice weekly mobile photography and filmmaking, tips, tricks, hacks, reviews, and unboxings, anything that you could want to know if you like taking photos and videos on your phone. Toodles. See you in the next one. Bye!